morning again. Our scripture this morning out of 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 9 through 17. For we are laborers together with God. You are God's husbandry. You are God's building. According to the grace of God, which was given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth thereon. But let every man take heed how he buildeth thereupon. For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ. In a subcontext, there's two kinds of ministries. What is going on in writing Paul here? It says, now, if any man build this upon gold, the foundation on gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, and stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest. For the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. And if any man work abide which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the temple of God dwelleth in you? And if any man defileth the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. We'll have a moment of prayer. Lord, again, as we pause, Lord, again, I ask you to help me with the words that we and you have discussed and we've prayed upon and thought about. Lord, again, we would this is in some sense, is a parable. It kind of has a double meaning, and Lord, that's what we try to get out, that we can build upon it. This morning, of course, the building. Lord, again, I would ask again, you open our hearts and minds. Lord, bless these words, that they be the ones you'd want me to share, and I ask all this in your precious name. Amen. There's a song, okay? Driving down the road, as I have in the past, and there's this song, and I think, for particular that day, I lean over with my phone like I do lots of times, and I take a picture of that, so I can go home and bring it up on my computer and basically listen to the song. So this song this morning is by Emily Roberts, and I think she's a country western singer, but irregardless, this is a great song, and I'm going to play it for you at the end, okay? But she starts off and she says, does the old floor creak like it did in 1942? That's pretty similar to this one, okay? It says, my grandpa, given his heart and soul, was sharing the good news. Well, I'm pretty blessed that my grandpa was here in them time frames, okay? The old red books, isn't that ironic? The old red books. It says it's caused a lot of tears. Well, think about that. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow. And then you can't always help, like Justine this morning, holy, 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 or just as I am. You think about that old red book. The blue one's got some real old dandies, but the red one's what they're talking about in the song. Then how about the altar? If an altar could testify, the prayers that's been uplifted at this altar. The prayers that we've went through lately, okay? Now I'm talking about a building. Where am I going? It goes on and says the old stained glass, of course it's kind of hidden, it says the old stained glass could never save a soul. No, it couldn't. And it says the old pews aren't on the roll that's going to be called up yonder. Well, okay, but now they're old. These are newer old, but anyway. And then the pulpit, and then this thing, made out of wood. And it's just a plain old white building. Yeah. You know, we've thought about a lot here lately with our exit in motion and, you know, some other things. My buddy Greg Robinson and his church is in the same predicament. You know, we're ahead of him a bit, but he's bouncing things back and forth, just like I have with Eric and Debbie and Jimbo and the other folks at Kiesling. We've lobbied some things back and forth. But anyway, the girl goes on and says, it's where Jesus changed my life. The old building. Now, I got saved down at Archie White's at a revival under Elizabeth Shaver. Me and Timmy Woody was having a great thing, and he showed me something the other day, and I hope we get a copy of it. It's some of Dale's old movies, and he's put them on a DVD. Well, here we are at a church picnic over at Evanbreth, and Mark, I'm sure you're in it, but it's grainy. But a couple vivid things is Grandpa Dean right there in the midst of it. And there I go up the grease pole. And I was a mammoth-built kid back in them days, you know. I probably weighed 55, 60 pounds, and I was probably 10, 12 years old, okay? Then there's the latter one in that. There's old J.D. Gunner, you're a spitting image of Papaw. But old J.D. couldn't climb it. But anyway, there you go. It's where Jesus changed my life. This church has never claimed to be the biggest. Never claimed to be the coolest. And then it goes on in the song, but it says it's where my mama met my daddy. And now this song's kind of about me in some aspects, but it's about all of us. It says mama met daddy at Vacation Bible School. Well, now we used to have some pretty good sized Vacation Bible schools. I was talking to Morgan Debbie the other evening, and they're having 15 to 16, 17 up at Mount Pleasant. And that's great for them because they're an older church, kind of like we are. You know, Kiesling's kind of got the opposite side of that. They've got some children there, but irregardless, Bible school. Then it goes on and it says, where 1,000 glowing brides. Well, we've had a lot of brides here, haven't we? Gunner, I married your mommy and daddy here. Supposed to have been down in the backyard, but the good Lord had other plans. He had her rain a good bit, you know. But anyway, 1,000 glowing brides. But then it also says that them same brides have wept when someone was laid to rest. A lot of folks in the graveyard. But that doesn't mean it's just this church. But the thing is, we're talking about a building. Then the girl goes on and says, it's where Jesus heard my prayers. Well, we've lifted a lot of them. And a lot of them's been tough here lately. And they'll continue to be tough. Just like we talked this morning. Sorrow's going to be there till the end, folks. Okay? But the building, it says he's walking with me everywhere. Yeah. No matter what I've done, it may not stand forever, but I'm grateful to call that church my home. Okay? So, that song should fit in just about all of our lives, but really, what is the building? Okay. It says Christ, the Son, was better than Moses. It tells you that in Hebrews chapter 3, verse 4. It says, every house was builded by some man, but he that built all things was God. Carol's had a wonderful life of being a carpenter, and he's built a lot of buildings and done a lot of things, and is a master builder, okay? But anyway, no matter what Carol's done, God's done a lot more, huh? Yeah. So it goes on. Okay, so is it building a house? Well, Justine said, no, it's us. But keep thinking about this. The mention of a church is found in Matthew chapter 16, verses 17 through 19. And I know that you've all heard this, but he says this to Peter. Jesus talking to Peter. You art Peter. Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against you. Peter didn't get that at that time, but he's telling him, buddy, you're my rock. You're who I'm going to build upon. John chapter 14, verses 2 and 3 says this, in my Father's house there are many mansions. And if it were not so, as I have told you, I go and prepare a place for you, and I'll come again. So, the building. He says, if it wasn't so, I wouldn't tell you that. I'm coming back. They didn't understand it when he said, I'm going into the grave and I'll be back. That was their first promise. But he tells them again at the ascension, I'm going to come back. And the next time's the final time, okay? So again, is it a building? Well, I mean, Scripture kind of tells you it's a building. The Bible states there are two foundations. We talked about that some in our lesson today. Chapter 7, verse 24 says, who shall ever hear the sayings of mine and build his house like a wise man upon a rock? You remember me this morning when we talked about wise counsel. The wise man's going to build it on a rock. Then verse 26 says, the contrary. If you build on the sand, the rain will descend upon it, and the wind's going to blow, and the floods came, and the great fall of it all. Mary Alice and I got really infatuated with something yesterday. These guys are southwest of Denver in what mountain range? San Juan, San something. And they're out in this old mining town, and it's called Mineral County, Colorado. And they're up above 10,000 foot elevation. Well, if any of you have ever been out there, it's hard to breathe above about 7,000 foot elevation. But anyway, it's a high desert. But now, mister, when she snows, once it comes. So they built this log house, camp, 30 by 40. But they poured a foundation of concrete. And then they put some kind of a knee wall up 4 or 5 feet high because the snow would be impacted against it all the way around it, okay? So then they make their logs and they saw them on the spot. I mean, it was a neat thing. But they build it on rock, okay? The rock being Peter, the rock being the church that God intended. So it says we dictate. What is the building? Well, then in Romans, Paul's writing this in chapter 12, verse 2. He says, he shows that we live out God's will when we change our thoughts to God's thoughts. So many times our thoughts are our own thoughts, or our buddy Satan helping us think, you know. And it says, when we change our thoughts to God's thoughts rather than living the world's dictates, the world will always pressure us to live sinfully and selfishly. Oh yeah, Joe Blow has one of them, and I need that. Or, you know, I've got a nice head full of hair. Well, I'll go get me a perm and I'll look like whoever, okay? Yeah, right? It says the pressure to live sinfully is always there, and selfishly. But to live God's life, he wants us to require we change how we behave by changing our thoughts. Now, it's a slow process. You get mad? Sure. You react. You get that first impression like we talked about. Those things take time to mold and shape. Still doing it to me. I mean, I still make massive mistakes. But anyway, the best verse tells us how Christ builds his church is in the book of Ephesians, chapter 3, verse 17. And this is where Paul says, Christ is making his home in our heart, okay? With the result that we all become the building of God. as Justine spoke many minutes ago, we're the church, we're the building. He put it in our hearts. But it goes on and it says, if anyone tries to destroy God's temple, God will destroy him. God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. That's in Romans chapter 12, verse 1. But now we can get tore down. We can get beat up. And the kicker to all that is you dust yourself off and God picks you back up. Okay? Ephesians chapter 2, verse 20 and 21 says, the household of God is built upon the foundation of the saints of God's household, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto a holy temple. The grandpas that was here and the grandmas on the creaky floor. Justine was a part of this and can remember we didn't have carpet. We had a runner, didn't we? Yeah, runners. And the old floor, and I can't remember what it looks like. I mean, one of these days we may see it again. It may be pretty. I can't truthfully remember.
That pot-bellied stove, the
Yeah.
pipe went right up through that ceiling.
Yeah, yeah. So, the old timers that was here, the saints that we built upon, your grandparents and their parents, and the ones that walked through here. Timmy and I were talking about old Pete Roberts. Boy, he was a good man. Still is a good old man, and he's got some miles on him. But anyway, and then Elizabeth, and me and Tim were talking about how Grandpa was anti-Elizabeth, and just on and on and on, okay? And a couple months into that, he'd whip anybody getting his way to defend her, okay? Built upon the saints. And it says they fitly together. Yeah, you take a jigsaw puzzle. And I read something about somebody the other day, they was doing it through COVID, and the family did it, and it covered like 6 by 8 feet on the floor. Good grief. Mary Alice can do that a little bit. Me, I have no patience for stuff like that. Cindy and Daryl do. They like doing that stuff. Not my cup of tea. This never was, okay? Fitly together. When it fits together, we become the holy temple. Now, you know, we think about the church as a whole and, you know, the transitions and things like that, you know, the exit plan and on and on and on. The old building could get blown down, burnt down, tore down, whatever. Those memories are still going to be there in our hearts and in our minds, but it's all about what's in our hearts. I close with the thought of the building again. It says, God gave us the foundation. Our heart is our soul, okay? If you think about it. We build on it. We grow together. And this crazy journey that we have recently started will have challenges, our exit plan, and none of this works unless we work together. But we have to listen to one another. But most of all, we have to listen and obey God's guidance, okay? So what is the building? Nothing's more prevalent in our daily walk than we remember the creaks in the old church floor and the old saints that do fit it together. But all that is meaning nothing if you don't have Christ in your heart. So what is the building? As we said at the very beginning, it's us, okay? Christ is the original builder, the master builder, the one that put it all into motion. Scientists will study it forever, try to prove everything wrong, a Big Bang Theory, and on and on. But God himself put it all in motion. God himself will be the one that shuts it all down. God himself will be the one, as we laugh about our bulletin where it shows the monkey, number 3, trying to get on the ark. And it says, brother, it's starting to rain. So, you know, we have to fight sometimes for what we feel is right. And God expects us to do that, okay? And I know we will have second guessing of ourselves at certain times in our everyday walk. But if we look at the goal, what's at the end, running hard to get there. But anymore, we don't run very hard because we've got a little mileage on us. Jacob, you can probably still run, and Gunnar and Olivia, but the rest of us, it wouldn't be pretty. So anyway, that foundation that you build upon, like I said, if it's in your heart, if you don't have it in your heart, you need to come here and pray about it, or sit in your pew and pray about it, but let it build upon you that you've got that continuity that our old buddy Satan is there to try to discourage. He keeps throwing the hurdles at us. So anyway, open your heart before it's too late. And I would hope all your hearts and minds are clear. And now I'm going to try, possibly here, with Mary Alice's help, we hope, we're going to try to play our closing song, Justine, instead of, well, we'll see. I have to see if it works. I'll turn it on as soon as I see what to push. All right, I am turning it on. It did it. I don't know which end's the speaker that in. Okay, it's on. Oh.